Indahnya negeri ini dengan hasil bumi yang melimpah. Dari hasil bumi, kita bertransaksi. Bertransaksi, jual, dan beli. Pasar adalah tempat kita berbagi rezeki. Tempat terjadinya denyut ekonomi. Penuh dengan informasi dan silaturahmi. Hasilnya bisa kita nikmati. Kesejahteraan masyarakat harus didukung keuangan yang sehat. Karena itu, perbankan sangat penting bagi industri keuangan nasional. Kepercayaan nasabah merupakan faktor utama dalam industri perbankan. Melalui fungsi intermediasi perbankan yang mendukung pembangunan nasional, dari hulu hingga hilir, ke seluruh lini, hingga ke pelosok negeri, LPS hadir sebagai lembaga yang melindungi nasabah dan mendukung stabilitas sistem perbankan melalui program penjaminan dan resolusi. LPS turut serta memelihara stabilitas perbankan dalam pembangunan nasional demi kesejahteraan Indonesia di masa yang akan datang. Dari kita, untuk kita. LPS, aman, tenang, pasti.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, I think. Yes, this is good afternoon. Well, at least this is good afternoon in Jakarta. Hi, so welcome to this session. This is part of the Temu Pendidik Nusantara session, and this is for the international class. But before I introduce myself and before I introduce the speaker here, which is next to me already, I want to say hello first to everyone and just making sure that our audio is working and then our visual is working well. Do you mind just sending a hello or sending a quick hi on the chat as well? Please do so. Okay. While we wait for, maybe people to trickle in as well to this session, let's wait for a while I introduce this whole session and what is it about. So for everyone watching, thank you for showing up and thank you for being here. This is a part of TPN. TPN is a short for Temu Pendidik Nusantara, which is actually probably this will also be helpful for Steven. Maybe you're not really familiar with what is TPN actually. So Temu Pendidik Nusantara is an annual conference since 2014 that brings together teachers, school principals and their representatives, school supervisors, school administrators, education activists as well, a lot of educational foundation or other stakeholders in the education ecosystem on a national and international scale. Now, TPN itself, or Temu Pendidik Nusantara, consists of various development classes, such as we have Kelas Kemerdekaan. If you translate it directly, it's like an independence class, and then you have a competency class, kelas kompetensi, and then you have a collaborative class, kelas kolaborasi, and then you have a career class, which is kelas karir, and this session here, which is like an international class atau kelas internasional. And also we will have a school program and student work exhibition as the events in TPN. Now, the international class itself is a class that is presented in English, And the objective is we want to bring educators from all around the globe to be able to share knowledge regarding the best practices in learning and teaching. And for Temu Pendidik Nusantara, we want to also say thank you to our sponsors, which are Yayasan Guru Belajar, Cerita Guru Belajar. We also have Kampus Guru Cikal as our sponsor, Kampus Pemimpin Merdeka, and also Teach First Indonesia. And then we have the sponsor is Lembaga Penjamin Simpanan or LPS. We have Wardah as our sponsor and NutriFood. Okay, that's a long introduction about this session itself. Oh, hello. We have Ibu Nurul Rizkiah here in the comment section in the chat. Hello, Ibu Nurul. If you do you mind also sharing us where you are right now? Where is your location? And then just tell us a little bit of yourself. And also we have, oh, I have Bu Anik is here as well. I know Bu Anik. Hi, Bu Anik. How are you? Um, and I have Pa Maman as well. Muhammad Abdurrahman. I call him Pa Maman. So, hello. So we have Maman. He's from Central Java or from Pekalongan. Bu Anik, I think Bu Anik is from, if I'm not mistaken, I think Bu Anik is from, I want to say Semarang. Am I right? Am I correct, Bu Ani? Please do correct me if I'm wrong. Sorry. Okay, so without further ado, I want to introduce our speaker here. We have Stephen Farr. Hello, Stephen. You might want to say hi first.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Well, I can hear you okay. I hope the others also can hear you
How
okay.
about we ask a couple people in the chat if you can hear my voice, say you can hear in the chat. We're going to have some back and forth in the chat. It's good practice. Hello,
Please
everybody.
do.
Stephen Farr.
Please do. Please do. Okay. Oh, Bu Anik is from Semarang. So, okay, so for those of you here, Bu Anik, we have Ibu Ilona as well. We have Pamaman. Do you mind saying, or do you mind giving us feedback or giving Stephen feedback? If oh, okay, they can hear you clearly, Stephen. All right, great, great. I want to ask you this before I introduce you, Stephen. Where are you right now? Where are you
I live
located?
in Washington,
Hi.
D.C. You're right. It's 5 a.m. It's Washington, D.C. And I'm just thrilled to be here with you all today. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Yay, thank you so much. Oh, you're in Washington, D.C. You're in D.C. You're in the capital. All right, and it's 5 a.m. over there. So it's a very early start for you, but I hope it doesn't hinder you in sharing as your best practices or your experience, which I'm sure will be very, very helpful and beneficial for all of us here. So, a short introduction about Stephen here. Stephen Farr leads Teach for All's Global Learning Lab, which seeks, supports, and spreads insights from transformational classrooms in marginalized communities around the world. And by facilitating learning among students, teachers, coaches, communities, the Global Learning Lab aims to accelerate systemic changes that fulfill the potential of students as leaders who will shape a better future for themselves, their communities, and all of us. A graduate of the University of Texas and Yale Law School. That's very, very awesome. Stephen began his career teaching high school English and English as a second language as a part of the 1993 Teach for America Corps in the Rio Grande Valley before returning to Teach for America as head of training and support in 2001, I would say. Yeah. He taught civil rights at Georgetown University Law, and Stephen began working with Teach for All in 2011. Now, Stephen, I might say I'm also an English teacher myself. I teach English high school English.
Wonderful.
And yay, so hello, fellow English teachers. Now, about his topic today. Stephen, I think, will be sharing some of the exceptional experience from classrooms around the world, especially for several years. Teach for All's Global Learning Lab has led collective studies of transformational classrooms and has now identified powerful, actionable patterns in those classrooms that we can learn from. All right. So, Stephen, I think that's enough introduction from me, and maybe the way we can do this session is, I think, I will pass the baton for you, and you can share your experience, and then we will pause for question and answers later on from those who are here joining us in the chat, and then we'll have a chit chat, and then we will wrap it up for the session.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You all, here's what I want to do. I want to do my entire session in 60 seconds so that you know what this is and what's coming. And if this is not for you, I'm not offended. You can go off somewhere else, but I hope it is for you. And if it is, I need you in it. I'm going to be asking you to give some feedback in the chat because we're going to learn from each other. So here's the entire session in 60 seconds. The world is facing significant challenges, from the environment to intolerance to pandemics, rising seas, and yet we have inherited systems of teaching and learning. We've inherited models of education that are not matched to the creative problem solving that we are all going to need, that children are going to need to make the world a more just, equitable, sustainable place in the future. In fact, when I travel around the world to classrooms, there's 61 countries in the Teach for All network, and I travel to classrooms, what I see is children getting in trouble for being creative and collaborative and problem solving. When I think about the future, I think those are the things we're going to need. We are going to need our students to be leaders of a better future for themselves and their communities. But that is not how the education system was built. At Teach for All, in the Global Learning Lab, we have found classrooms around the world where students are growing as leaders of a better future. And we have invited people from around the world to virtually visit those classrooms and help us study them to say, what should we learn from classrooms where students are growing as leaders of a better future? And what I'm going to share today is what we're learning. And I'm going to ask you to contribute to that learning. That's what this session is. First, we're going to do a little bit of an exercise together. Then I'm actually going to take you to 2 classrooms in 2 different countries, and you're just going to step in for 5 minutes each to get a sense of these classrooms. And then I'm going to ask you, what do they have in common? And then I'm going to show you what we've learned they have in common. That's what's coming. But I want to start with getting everybody, this is not optional. Everybody has to say something in the chat. Here's why. I'll tell you a very quick story. There's a doctor in the United States named Atul Gawande who studies medicine. And he was studying, you know how sometimes people make mistakes in a surgery and you hear these awful things like, we were supposed to cut off the left arm and we accidentally cut off the right arm, or we lost a sponge inside the body of this person during surgery. Like these awful mistakes, you think, how could they happen? This doctor went to those operating rooms where mistakes happened and studied why did they happen. And what he found was, in almost every case, someone in the room thought something might be wrong, but did not speak up. So he did an experiment. He did an experiment where everyone in the operating room was required at the beginning of this operation to put their voice into the room. It didn't matter what they said. Everyone says, "My name is Stephen," or "I'm having a good day." Just the fact that every single person had said something made them 10 times more likely later to speak up if they were having a question. This platform is strange. I can't hear your voice. But my theory is if you write in the chat now, you're more likely to write in the chat later. So this is required. Everyone is going to write in the chat, and I want you to answer the following question. Let me just put this on the screen. I think you're going to be seeing my screen in just a second. In the chat, please write what you think the answer to this is. A successful classroom is one that ... Yes, look, malpractice. It's of course malpractice if you cut off the wrong arm. But the question is, how do we prevent it? We get our students in the classroom, in the operating room, we get everyone's voice into the space. So right now, everybody who's here, I see there's 32 people here. It includes me. I'm going to do this. Ms. Putti includes you. A successful classroom is one that what? I'd like everyone to write in the chat.
All right. So thank you. So inviting everyone to just write down their answers, their ideas, their thoughts in the chat. A successful classroom is one that ... And I completely agree with you, Stephen, on what you said. If the viewers here are chatting now, so they will be more likely to chat also throughout the session, I think is the key is to just like defeating that initial fear of speaking up. And once you have, voice out your opinion, and then you feel the familiarity, and then you feel comfortable in sharing your opinion. So
And they're
go
coming
ahead.
in already. This is
Yes.
great. I see like kids are happy.
Yes.
Kids are learning. Thank you so much. I know I'm going to mispronounce names. I apologize for that.
That's okay. That's why
thank you.
I can
Happy and
pronounce it.
learning, loving their teacher. They have choice. Interesting. Thank you, Ade. Thank you, Anik.
They have a choice where they love their teacher.
Excellent.
Encourage students to learn actively as well as happily.
All right. Thank you. I'm starting with this question because I have come to believe that the purposes baked into the education systems that we're using now, that many of us have actually inherited from a few colonizing countries who went around the world and spread this classroom model, that purpose doesn't match up with what children need today. So we're going to start with a little game here, and this is why I need everyone in the chat. And by the way, thank you. It's working. Look, we've got all these voices learning joyfully. This is fantastic. Influence on the future of the students. I'm going to put a picture on the screen, and I'm going to just ask everyone again, stay in the chat. Just tell me what you see. That's a very simple question. I see what? What do you see in the picture? You see kids. What else do you see?
Let's see if there are any comments that is there already. What do you see from
Ms.
the
Putti, let me just use you for a second. What do you see?
Sure. I see kids riding up a hill.
They're riding up a hill. Are they all on the same path?
Nope, different path.
Nope. Yeah.
Totally different path.
Kick is already jumping to the metaphor inequity. Yeah, like What are they riding?
They're all riding their bikes, their
They're
bicycles.
riding bikes. They all
Mhm.
basically have the same bike, right?
Yes.
But one kid on the right is really tall. The kid in the middle's kind of medium. The kid on the left is short and he can't reach the bikes, but they all have the same bikes. Do they all
Mhm.
have the same path?
No, they
No.
have different paths.
This picture is meant to represent one way that systems define success, and that is education is successful if we give all children the same resources. I think of this as equity as equal inputs. All the children have the same computer, or all the children have the same books. So, yay, we're successful. But it's not taking into account that different children face different obstacles in their paths, right? It's not taking into account that different children have different needs because some are taller, some are shorter, some children learn differently. All right, that's picture one. That's model one of success. I have the opportunity to go around the world and I see many systems that define success as all children get the same resources. Here's picture number two. What do you see? What's different? Ms. Putti, let me just use you again and let me ask people to keep going in the chat.
Now they
What do
have
you notice that's different?
different vehicles. I mean, different bikes.
Yeah, the
For
bikes
sure.
are different.
The
The
bikes are
bikes
different.
actually seem like they're more appropriate for the different paths,
For
don't they?
exactly.
What else do you notice?
I know. Well, the road is still the same. The paths are still different.
Yeah,
And also, I would say, was there the finish line wasn't there before, right?
yeah, there was no finish line
The
before.
goal is there.
That's right. So in this picture, yes, thank you, Anik. Yeah, the vehicles are different. They're right in the same direction. And this time, success is defined as do all the kids get to the same place? Can they all read and write and do math at the same high level? We may need to give children different resources to get there because of the paths in front of them, or because some of them have different learning styles or abilities. But that's a different way to think about success in education. And many systems are built on that idea. So we've had two systems so far, right? The first is if we think of educational excellence as all children get the same resources, we give them all the same books and we say, yay, us, we win. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter if they get there, we gave them the same stuff. A surprising number of education systems around the world are built on that idea. Second idea is no, it's not about children getting the same resources. It's about them getting to the same levels of achievement, right? This is where we talk about closing achievement gaps. Can we get to those same reading and writing? All right, things are going to get interesting now, you all. Take a second to look at this. Ms. Putti, I'm going to ask you to start. Tell me some of the things you see in this picture.
Interesting. There are the path is one now,
Mhm.
compared to the previous picture. Now it's one path and different
Who's
children.
making the path?
They are making the path.
Children
The
seem to be
children,
making the path.
the
Yeah.
children seems to be making the path. And also, I would say that, well, this is maybe me doing an inference here that the flags are some sort of like a touch points, I
Sure.
would say.
Sure. What do you notice about the vehicle?
The vehicle is still different. The vehicle, oh, it's one vehicle now. And
Yeah.
then I see the kids are helping each other as well.
Yeah, the kids are helping each other. Do you notice that the vehicle is made from the taken apart
The,
the other pieces that we gave them in the last picture? They took
yes, I
apart
see
those
that
three
now.
bicycles and they
I
made
noticed
something
the
that
tires.
yeah.
Yes. Hmm.
And who's making the finish line?
It's also the kids.
The kids are thinking about what are we aiming for.
Hmm. And borrowing Bu Anik's answer is they decide their own purpose, way, source, and ECC. Yeah.
You all, here's what I really believe, and I don't need to make everyone believe this, but I have 3 children. I am profoundly worried about my children's future and their children's future. And I do not believe that education systems that define success like this, where all the success is getting the same resources, I don't believe that is preparing my children to face the challenges that we have on this planet. I really want my children to read and write well, but I don't think high scores on standardized tests are preparing my children and their children to make the world a better place. I am coming to believe, based on these studies of classrooms around the world, that the best hope we have for climate change, for democracy, for understanding, for challenging pandemics, for all of these challenges that we're facing, the best hope is to design teaching and learning to realize students' potential as leaders of a better future. What we have done at Teach for All is we have studied classrooms where that is happening. So we have found classrooms all around the world, and forgive me, you're going to see sort of my screen bouncing around a little bit. We have 61 partner organizations like Teach First Indonesia, and we have been finding classrooms in those countries that align to that third picture, right? If we find a classroom in Nepal or Indonesia or wherever, in Colombia, where it seems like students, yes, they are learning to read and write, but more importantly, they're learning to make the world a better place for themselves and their communities. What we have done is we have built virtual visits to those classrooms, and we take people to them and we say, what can we learn? So here's what we're going to get to do right now. You are going to get to visit 2 classrooms around the world, and we're going to go to India first. I'm going to stop sharing and then reshare so that I can get the video in place. You all, I want to be sure everybody can hear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start playing this for just a moment, and then I'm going to stop and wait for someone in the chat to say, yes, the sound is good. I can see well. So this is a little tricky because I have to get away from the screen where I can see you all, but here we go. I'm going to play this for a minute. I'm going to stop it and wait for you in the chat to say, yes, I could hear that. First, let me just wait till it starts sharing my screen. Okay.
The first word is achieve. Everybody say after me, achieve. Achieve.
The audio is working perfectly.
All right.
Great.
Here's my request of everybody. Don't take notes. Don't just visit, just watch and feel, because what I'm going to do is we're going to do 5 minutes in India. Then I'm going to take you to another classroom in another country, and you're going to go visit that. And then we're just going to ask, what do they have in common? So let's go visit Pooja's classroom in India. I'm going to play it. It's about 5 minutes.
Never do I want a child to sit in a class and just to think that whatever is happening is meaningless. Very good. So reflection means to think about what you did right, what you did wrong, and what did you learn out of it. Alright, so we're going to reflect on our dreams. You remember we started the day by writing our dreams? Can all of you just close your eyes for 1 minute? And just remember what we did in the morning? Whether it's becoming a dancer, a singer, a doctor, an engineer, coming to school should help you to fulfill those dreams.
Can you please share your dream and how coming to school is going to help you to achieve that dream?
I want to become a singer and I am coming to school.
I did have a vision for my classroom, but when I came to my class with my vision, I wanted each and every child to have their own vision for themselves and we integrated the vision. So it was never me imposing a vision on them. I told them this is what I feel should be there. You let me know what you feel. We are coming into the class to learn from each other. I'm teaching you things. You teach me. It's like a two-way process. And never are we going to force anything on each other. Let's give her a bubble clap. 1, 2, 3. Should we do this? Should we do this? What should we do? The last one. So quickly just revise. Take 2 minutes to discuss your team. I did not give them the vision for their teams. I said every team has their own flavor. So you tell me what are going to be the rules, what are going to be the values for your team, and that's how you're going to behave. So they knew that first they had to cater to themselves, but as soon as their work was done, they had to be sensitive towards the people around them and like take everybody together.
Teamwork is most important because in teamwork, if we are together, we can do anything.
I try to express that what you bring to the table is going to be very different from what other people bring to the table. And together you just have so many ideas that you can just bring together to create a lot of magic. Teachers, you will explain the process of germination and we will write these steps down in our notes. Okay? Every team has a team leader and the team leader behaves like a teacher.
It can grow.
So whenever a new concept is being taught, the team leader has to discuss with every member in the team what is being taught. So like after I do my role as a teacher, it's every team leader playing their role as a teacher. And after that, every pair in the class acts like a teacher. So they need to teach each other what is being taught.
If somebody cannot figure the answer, I will push them to try. If you will try, then you can do it and answer the question.
It really made them realize that they bring different flavors to the table and they can learn from it. That strength in unity is something I really hope always remains. That it's not just about you, it's not just about your work, it's about your buddies, it's about your team, it's about your class. So never come to me telling me, Didi, my work is done. Is your buddy's work done? Is your team's work done? Because it's really all of you together who will end up doing something in life.
5, 6, 5,
It is very important to think beyond the classroom. Every team had to go in the communities and just go around, walk around and see something that bothers you. Come to class and discuss why did it bother me? What is wrong in that? And then try to find solutions.
First, we will discuss the problem, we discuss why it happened. Then we discuss if that problem is there, what will happen. Then we do teamwork and find out the solution.
So if it is a problem in your community, what can you do as children? Use the knowledge that you gained in class. Use your convincing skills. And that's what they did. They failed a lot of times. They were like, Didi, we are not able to find solutions. People don't listen to us. We try to convince them. They're being rude to us. But that's okay. You need to keep trying. It's a process which is going to take time and you have to fail a lot of times before you actually succeed. And after 10 failures, a small success used to make them so happy and so thrilled that they did not mind failing after that. So if right now we are able to see how the knowledge gained in the classroom is helping the child to make changes in the environment outside classroom, it will actually give us an idea of how when the child actually finishes his or her education and goes into the real world, how is the child going to be there?
So I need to become a good person who helps poor people to do their work. Because I am thinking that if I am the poor people, how will I be?
I really hope that they always remember the Farr in unity. I really hope that even 10 years, 15 years down the line, that passion in them never dies away. How they can use their energy for their passion to just impact the community around and how to take everybody together with them in achieving their goals.
Very interesting video, Stephen.
Thank you, everybody, for
We tell students
paying such
they can-
attention. We could We could spend hours discussing what there is to learn from that video. That is a classroom where Pooja and her students and their families are not defining success as all children get the same resources. And they're not defining success as everyone can read and write at the same level. She is defining success as my children are growing as leaders of a better future for themselves and their communities. And that means that she's doing things differently. We could explore that, and I would love to, but I want to make it more difficult and more exciting. We're going to go to a very different classroom. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring you to the United States where I live. It's different age children. It's high school. This is in a community in Colorado. There are so many ways that I think your mind is going to think, whoa, this classroom is different from the other one. And yet, here's what you know about this classroom. The people that sent this to us said, these children are growing as leaders of a better future. So what we're going to do is we're going to spend 5 minutes or so in this classroom, and then we're going to explore what do they have in common? What can we learn about teaching and learning in classrooms where students are growing as leaders of a better future? A little heads up, this video, which is really, I love this one, it's 11 minutes long, so we're not going to watch the whole thing. So I'm going to let you watch a little bit. I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to fast forward just to give you a flavor of this. So I'll give you about 5 minutes of time in this classroom. And then we're going to stop, and we're going to have a discussion. I'm going to share some of the patterns that have come out of the studies of dozens and dozens of classrooms like these all around the world. Once again, and you all did such a great job. I'm watching the chat. I love it if you just are like thinking out loud in the chat. What do you see? What do you notice? Right? Just like we did with the pictures. So let's go visit a classroom by a teacher. The teacher's name, such a great name. His name is Wisdom. The teacher's name is Wisdom Amuzu. And he teaches in the United States. And let's go to his classroom. And remember, I'm going to fast forward it and to skip over a little bit, even though I wish we had time to watch all of it.
We tell students that if they can essentially shut up, walk in a straight line, and sit down in class and listen long enough for us to see a return on our investment in May when they take the standardized test, they will achieve their dreams, they will find liberation for their community. And to me, it's a hoax. It doesn't take into account what it means to be systematically oppressed. All right, as a class, define yourself. All right, show us what you got. When I see a system that might produce great data, but fundamentally disempowers my students, when I see a system in which my students will graduate conformists instead of transformative, it's very much so then undermining the work that we're doing. For this circle, what are we using as evidence? Because it's not just an academic circle. Personal experiences, we assume that access to a college education is enough to uproot systems of oppression. And it simply isn't. It's fundamentally a low expectation of what education can be. We're supposed to be fostering whole, full human beings. First, just the person behind you, turn around and share your goal for this circle. I think there's a great deal of violence to your consciousness to constantly see inequity in your community, never given the tools to either comprehend that pain or to address that pain, to heal that pain.
I'm Black and I'm not treated equal in some places.
Sometimes I wish that I have the same power as white, because I think about where am I gonna get all this money, or am I gonna make it? That's all I know.
It's gonna be like you might not get accepted for a car loan or for a car boost because of your kids.
I thought about it a lot. Like I could be the next one to get shut down just because I want to walk to the store that day, or just because of my feelings.
My students have already experienced oppression, have already internalized that pain. So I have to see teaching as healing. All right, let's relax. Let's go. Korea in la catch. Let's get started. I do harm to you. I do harm to myself. If I love and respect you.
After we say in my catch, this classroom becomes a family. It's not just these are my classmates, this is my brother, this is my sister, this is family.
So this idea of in la catch, and then linking that to the concept of Ubuntu. I am because we all are, right? To me, it's a classroom community that can actually heal. It means when they walk through that door, I'm trying to meet all of their needs, and not just my objective for the day. You know, we're a community.
So now I use that like to better myself better. Just like when I'm out here some negative, you're more aware. You see where these words really came from. It's horrible.
Now we know not to disrespect others because we don't know what they've been through. We don't know what they've done.
People have to stop like stereotyping people.
I trust a lot of people in my class. Like, I know a lot of things about them, they know a lot of things about me.
Recently, I have tried to harm myself. After the last, every single time you hear something bad, you can do something about it. You see people doing something about it.
Taking this class proves to me that you're not helpless. You can do things to help change anything happen. I am worth something that I can do something for the community.
Creating or finding the opportunities for their work in the classroom to have impact. It means literally constantly bringing the real world into your classroom. They cannot be separated.
We did a walkout for the Michael Brown shooting, and that like impacted a lot of people.
You know, we spent a lot of time in seminars discussing the different acts of police brutality that was happening around the country.
We've decided we want to walk out and let the police and the community know we are also affected by this.
They chose to specifically plan the date, the hour when they would all, in an organized fashion, actually push that door and walk out of our building. And it was a moment of transformative resistance. A moment in which they're saying, look, we see this wave of activism that's happening, and we as students want to call your attention to it and force your hand.
And give our opinion about how we feel. I want to say that if we don't give up, we can make a difference.
That walkout made me feel like I had my voice heard, you know? It made me feel like the world knows that I'm affected by this.
Students would say things like, I didn't know we were capable of something like that. It's the first moment where they actually saw and felt power.
We were able to advocate for ourselves and speak our voice and put out what we believe in.
But if we speak the truth to other people, it can change them.
Our local police commander, district attorney, a forensic social worker, and community organizer, they actually came in, sat in during a community meeting, and my students debated in front of them. Actual people in their community, in the building, listening to their voices. That's tangible. You know, that's real. That was scholarly. It's the idea that as we're going through the system, we're achieving that transformational change.
I think it's like getting closer to the equality, but not that much. I guess I feel right now I'm not being equal like to every race right now. If all the races were equal, I guess everyone would have respect with each other. There wouldn't be no more stereotypes, and that's what I would like to change. So everyone could feel equal.
It's just this fundamental understanding that you matter. You deserve a seat at the table, and we will get your seat at the table.
If we don't know that, then people are gonna just like keep stepping on us.
Now we see that everything that's going on is wrong, and we're actually gonna take a stand to do something about it.
It takes more than one mind to make everything better. And that's how I want the world to be, where everybody puts their head together and creates a happier, safer environment, not only for themselves, but for the younger people that are coming in the generations below.
I want my students to take their rightful place in this world. To me, education is a means for liberation.
That was a very great video, Stephen.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for
It was really
taking a
moving.
minute to visit Wisdom's classroom. I want to share with you what we're learning from visiting dozens of classrooms around the world that are like that third picture, right? Wisdom's classroom and Pooja's classroom were not defining success by standardized tests. They're defining success by our students growing as leaders of a better future. And there's patterns in those classrooms. But before I do, and I know we only have like 14 minutes left, let's take 3 or 4 minutes. This is one of those moments when I need everybody in the chat. Here's the question. What do Pooja's classroom and Wisdom's classroom have in common? What's something you notice that is similar, even though the kids are different ages, they're in different cultural contexts, they're teaching different subjects, but they're both trying to develop students as leaders of a better future? What do they have in common? I'm going to be quiet for a couple minutes while I get ready to share the next piece, but I just want to see in the chat all of you saying, what do you see in common between those two classrooms we just saw?
All right. So inviting everyone, especially the viewers, to share what you see, what are the things that you see in common in Pooja's and Wisdom's class, the one from the two videos that we have watched together. And I think I'm very grateful for this moment because I think I have the privilege to voice out my opinion directly. I think if I may share, Stephen, what I think that I really saw powerful in Pooja's and Wisdom's class, I think is they're really building this sense of community, and they really set up the situation where their students think that they matter and they bring something to the table. Like each and every one of them brings something to the table and they matter, and everyone can learn from it. So no child is um, ruled out because each and every one of them matters. Their
Yep.
experience matter, their opinion matter, and they bring something to the table and it's appreciated.
Thank you. It's a great observation. I'll share one too. I find it interesting that you visit those classrooms and you have to look around, where's the teacher? But it's not like the traditional model of I'm at the front, the children in rows, I'm the source of learning, they receive the learning. These teachers both blow that up. They're just like, we're going to learn together. And I think that is more reflective of developing students for the adulthood that they're facing. Like, and I think we see that. Thank you for people in the chat who are motivating the students to have their voices. We saw that in both classrooms. Keep those ideas coming. Ms. Puti, in a moment, not yet. I just put a link in the private chat that I'd like you to share, if you could, on the YouTube thing. Can you get to that? But don't worry about that yet. Just after I share something. So, you all, in the interest of time, like what I'd really like to do is take a few hours to explore what those patterns are, because if we did, I am positive that you would find and discover what I'm about to share. What I'm going to put on the screen now is an attempt to map the patterns in classrooms around the world where students are growing as leaders of a better future. I'm going to give you a link to what's on the page. I want to tell you all something. There are about 5 people in the world who have seen this. We're building this as we speak. It is under construction, but I'm just going to use you as a test audience to look at it. If you want to, as you leave, I'll take it with you. But first, let me just tell you the story of what we've learned, and then I'm just going to stop and ask people to put questions. You can start putting questions in the chat now, but we see 4 patterns. And when I say we, let me just show you this. It's amazing. 3,500 people. I'm talking about teachers, students, teacher coaches, experts, researchers. 3,500 people have joined us to visit classrooms all around the world, like Pujas, like Wisdoms. They visit the classrooms, and then we say to them, what do they have in common? We do what we just did, but we give them more than 2 minutes to think about it. And we collect what they say. So what's on the screen is what they've said back. What these crowdsourced studies are saying are that there's 4 patterns in these classrooms. First, purpose matters. In all of these classrooms, the teachers and students or families are asking themselves, what is education for? What is success? And they're exploring that question. Second, and honestly, I think this is the most important part, even though I didn't expect to learn this, is something we're calling lenses. I'm going to zoom in on this so that you all can see it a little better. Let's see how I can zoom in. I may have to do this. Here we go. What we're finding is even more important than what these teachers do are something we're calling lenses, the way they see students. They see the students as leaders now. They see themselves as learners. You heard that from both Wisdom and Puja. They're on different continents and they're saying the same thing. They're saying, I'm the learner here. My students have something to share and we're learning together. The third one, community is power. You saw this in Puja and you saw it in Wisdom. They don't just see the problems around their school. They see assets. They see strengths. They bring those strengths into the classroom. And the final one, so important, they don't see when their children have a misbehavior, they don't see it as like that child is bad. They see it as that child is reflecting problems around the child. And so let's work on those together. So the second pattern are these lenses. Again, I'm going to give you this and you can go explore it. I think many of you are teachers, and this is where you're going to want to really go. We also see clear patterns in what teachers do. There's actually 5 areas, and these go into, each has 5 specific actions. Here's the common actions in classrooms where students are growing as leaders of a better future. Ms. Puti, would you put the link in the chat so that people have what I'm sharing now? Because I'm almost done sharing this, but I would encourage you to take a look.
In the chat.
You already did?
Yep.
Oh, great. Thank you. What you can do is you can pick anything here. Like I, as a teacher, I want to work on hosting dialogue and discussion. So I clicked on that. If you go there, what you're going to see is voices from around the world sharing how they host dialogue and discussion as a resource. And you can watch videos of people doing these things from classrooms and get advice from people, get some of the research on it. All of this is under construction. And what I'm going to ask you, and this I'm seriously asking, if you go to this and you use it, you have to add to it. There's a place here where people are saying, I have an idea, here's what I do in my classroom. And people from around the world are saying, like, I don't know, here's a lady in Mexico put something in about how she broadens perspectives. It's like a collective learning. That's how this is being created. So if you come and you learn from it, you have to contribute. That's the deal. Thank you. I'll just assume everybody's okay with that. Let me just go back to the last piece of this, and then I'm going to stop, and we just have a few minutes for more questions. What are the outcomes that teachers and students are measuring? 5 things. Remember in our second picture how the only outcome that was valued was academic achievement? In classrooms like Wisdoms and Pujas, what we see is teachers and students are valuing 5 things. My kids are growing their well-being, their connectedness, their awareness, their agency, and their mastery. So what we've been doing is collecting ways that teachers can measure growth in those areas. These are the indicators. If my kids grow in those 5 ways, I think that we can say they're growing as leaders of a better future. So what I have to offer you, and I'm sorry we don't have, many hours to look at this together, is this emerging map. I didn't make it up. This is coming from 3,500 people like you visiting classrooms and saying, what are the patterns? You now have access to this. You're going to see that it's a mess. It's under construction, but that's what we're working on. Because, back to the beginning, I don't believe that perfecting the way we're teaching and learning now is going to prepare students for the future that they face. In fact, I think we're in trouble if we just keep doing what we're doing. I think we need to teach and learn very, very differently. And I think these teachers are showing us how, and this is a map. Thank you so much for listening to all of that. If you would please put questions in the chat, I will take as many as we can in the few minutes we have left, but that's what I wanted to share with you. And I just want to say thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Stephen. That was a very powerful and very inspirational session, I think I would say. I specifically really am excited to also see that this page that you just showed us just now. And I'm sure a lot of the viewers here have burning questions for you as well. But before we go on to the Q&A session, I think we need to have a little bit of a break. There's a short video coming up, as I believe. And then we will continue on to taking a question, because I can see there are questions already in the chat. So before that, let's go on to the video. Okay.
Saya penjual batik. Awalnya saya nggak pernah nyimpan uang di bank. Semua keuntungan saya simpan di toko. Kalau di rumah ya saya simpan di bawah bantal. Semenjak kena kebakaran, uang saya hangus semua.
Okay. All right. It suddenly stopped. The video suddenly stopped. All right. So now let's take on a question. Let's take on a question. I think Patricia. I think it's Ibu Patricia. There's a question from her, Stephen. It's on the chat also. How to make the students optimistic because they face some, I think, domestic problems.
Yeah.
So maybe they have that in their in their homes, and
it's so many. When you do this work, you realize so many children are facing trauma in some way, and it is radically inhibiting their ability to learn. When you're anxious, when you don't feel safe making mistakes in the classroom, there's not space to learn. You might have noticed in that model that the first strategy is called love and connect. Mm-hmm. It's funny how controversial that is, right? To call love a teaching strategy, but it's what shows up in classrooms like Puja and Wisdoms. Mm-hmm. And if you click on that, thank you so much for that question, Patricia. What you'll see is the teacher's own vulnerability sets the tone for that. It's strange, but there's an action there called be human.
Yes.
Which is going to the idea, so many of us as teachers, we're like taught to put on a mask. It's like, who am I going to be as a teacher? I'm going to be stern. There's nothing personal. That's not how these teachers teach. It's just not. What we see is they sit down, and if they're having a bad day, they say, I'm having a hard day. and here's why. And they're vulnerable, and so their students start to feel vulnerable and be able to be vulnerable. They put a lot of work into building a sense of community where children feel responsible for each other. You heard in Wisdoms, a girl talked about her mental health and about harming herself.
Mm-hmm.
That's intense, right?
Yes.
But you also heard the kids say, we're a family.
Mm-hmm.
And the systems that we have inherited, which, by the way, came from Eastern Europe in the 1800s and were just built for wealthy white boys, but they've been spread all around the world, including Indonesia. Those systems do not allow space for that. You sit in rows, you respond to what you're asked. It's not a space where you're human. And that's what's happening in these classrooms. So I want to ask, like, how do systems need to change to do that? Really appreciate that question. I'll let you decide on time, Ms. Puti. I'm okay, but I know that we're near the time that we said. So whatever you want to do.
Okay. Yes, I believe also I have received, a little nudges here and there as well about the time. But thank you so much, Stephen. I think this is it's a very eye opener for me. Especially I especially really really love the idea of being building the collective collaborative work from teachers all over to share their best practices as well, and what they see is working in the classrooms and able to transform students into future leaders as well. This is what we are trying to aim as well with the Tamu Pendidik Nusantara, to create a platform and create the media for teachers across the nation, across Indonesia, to share their best practices and to just be able to learn from each other, and building that mindset that everyone brings something to the table as well. I for sure, and I know that the other viewers as well will also appreciate that link, and we will click that link, we'll visit. Really, really am encouraged to also contribute to that as well. So
Yes,
very,
I
very
would
excited.
love to see, put your quotes in there, put your links in there, and then you will be in the ebook. That's how this works. It's just like all it is voices of people around the world who are trying to do this. So thank you. Thank you for
Thank you.
having me, everybody.
Thank you so much. The pleasure is all ours, and I would love to invite everyone that was here, that attended this session, to also upload and share what you learned, maybe some insights, some highlights that you get from the session. Share it on your social media, and then don't forget to tag at Temu Pendidik Nusantara as well. And then you can see a lot of thank yous coming as well, Stephen, on the chat. So really, really grateful for you and appreciate for you being really, really such a sport at 5 a.m. in the morning in your location down in DC. So
It's my pleasure. Thank you, everybody.
thank you. Okay.
All
So
right.
happy to see everyone. All right. So
Bye.
So with that, I might conclude this session. Not sure how to put grateful emojis. Yes, you have that emoji sometimes in the chat. It can be, you can get lost in the YouTube chat.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. So thank you. And for that, I conclude the session. Thank you everyone for coming. And most of all, thank you for the sponsors for to make this Temu Pendidik Nusantara happen. So Miss Puti Almirsha, I'm Puti signing off, and thank you so much, Stephen, for coming to this session. Thank you, everyone.
saya penjual batik. Awalnya saya nggak pernah nyimpan uang di bank. Semua keuntungan saya simpan di toko. Kalau di rumah ya saya simpan di bawah bantal. Semenjak kena kebakaran, uang saya hangus semua sampai ludes. Habis. Semenjak itu, saya sadar saya harus nabung di bank, nyimpen uang di bank. Ya, biar aman dan tentram. Ya, pastinya bank kita ya harus ada yang jamin, ya toh?
Simpanan Anda di bank dijamin hingga 2 miliar rupiah.
Dengan pengumuman ini, maka pengurus bank diminta agar tidak meninggalkan Indonesia guna penyelesaian likuidasi.
Pada tahun 1997 hingga 1998, badai krisis moneter dan perbankan menghantam Indonesia. Masyarakat berbondong-bondong antri di bank dan ATM untuk menarik dana mereka.
Presiden meminta Menteri Keuangan sama Gubernur BI untuk mengambil langkah-langkah menghadapi permasalahan ini di perbankan. Bank yang sudah tidak bisa ditolong, tutup aja. Bank yang masih bisa diselamatkan, ya apakah harus merger atau langkah-langkah lain supaya dibantu. Nah itu nanti bulan November itu dicabut izin 16 bank.
Kekacauan terjadi di mana-mana. Situasi chaos ini disebabkan hilangnya kepercayaan dari masyarakat terhadap perbankan. 16 bank saat itu kolaps.
Wah ini bagaimana? Uang saya hilang. Bayangkan kalau orang waktu itu uangnya ratusan juta aja udah besar sekali. Sehingga bulan Desember itu ada surat dari Mensesnek ya, kepada BI dan Menteri Keuangan untuk membantu. Eksplisit disebutkan keluarkan BLBI, bantuan likuiditas Bank Indonesia. Itu Desember itu.
Berdasarkan pengalaman pahit atas tumbangnya 16 bank, Undang-Undang Nomor 10 Tahun 1998 tentang perbankan dikeluarkan.
Saya melihat BPPN itu selalu babak belur berhadapan kalau diadu dengan Undang-Undang KUH Perdata. Saya kemudian bilang, saya mau untuk membangun LPS itu dengan undang-undang. Nggak mau saya dengan PP. Gitu.
Pada 22 September 2004, Undang-Undang Republik Indonesia Nomor 24 tentang Lembaga Penjamin Simpanan. Berdasarkan undang-undang ini, LPS merupakan lembaga independen yang berfungsi menjamin simpanan nasabah penyimpan. Lembaga ini pun turut aktif dalam memelihara stabilitas sistem perbankan sesuai dengan kewenangannya. Setahun kemudian, tepatnya pada 22 September 2005, LPS resmi beroperasi.
Negara-negara lain juga masih mengalami krisis ya. di Australia, perbankan juga, kemudian di Singapura, Malaysia, Hong Kong. Tapi terus terang waktu kita mendirikan LPS, kita banyak mengadap model dari inilah Kanada gitu ya, karena memang itu model yang cukup bagus lah itu diambil gitu ya, mengenai lembaga penjamin simpanan. Jadi waktu itu memang pemerintah tuh sudah menyiapkan, ya kan, undang-undang LPS. Saya ingat waktu saya di asuransian di Kementerian Keuangan, tugas saya memang selain katakanlah melakukan pengawasan, juga tugas lainnya adalah diminta menyiapkan undang-undang LPS.
Major financial institutions have teetered on the edge of collapse, and some have failed.
Krisis keuangan yang berawal di Amerika Serikat pada tahun 2007, dampaknya mulai dirasakan ke seluruh dunia, termasuk negara-negara berkembang pada tahun 2008. Di Indonesia, imbas krisis keuangan tersebut mulai terasa terutama menjelang akhir 2008. Dampak krisis keuangan global yang paling terasa adalah ketatnya likuiditas di pasar uang antar bank. Penurunan harga saham yang tajam, potensi meningkatnya kredit bermasalah, serta derasnya aliran modal keluar yang menekan nilai tukar rupiah. LPS pun memasuki babak baru dalam pelaksanaan fungsinya, yaitu untuk menyehatkan kembali PT Bank Senturi Tbk. Upaya yang ditempuh nyatanya berbuah manis. Bank Senturi keluar dari status dalam pengawasan khusus oleh Bank Indonesia pada 11 Agustus 2009. Kinerja keuangan PT Bank Senturi pun terus diperbaiki hingga memenuhi ketentuan tentang kesehatan bank. Pada akhirnya, sejak 3 Oktober 2009, Bank Senturi secara resmi berganti nama menjadi PT Bank Mutiara Tbk.
Pada tahun 2014, bulan November 20, kita lakukan RUPS LB, penjualan pengalihan saham dari LPS kepada pemenang, yaitu G-Trust dari Jepang. Ya. Perusahaan yang juga bergerak di bidang keuangan, yang mempunyai aktivitas investasi keuangan di luar Jepang, yang telah juga dinyatakan oleh OJK lulus dalam fit and proper test. Harga yang disepakati 4,4 triliun, ekuivalen dengan recovery rate 55%, ekuivalen dengan price to book ratio yang 3,2 kali. Ya. Jumlah ini 3,2 kali jauh di atas rata-rata price to book value dari jual beli perbankan di Indonesia yang 2 kali. Ya. Perlu kami sampaikan bahwa indemnity tidak diberikan oleh LPS. Kita menjual bank apa adanya tanpa mengakseptasi risiko-risiko yang muncul di kemudian hari.
Dalam perjalanannya, DPR dan pemerintah mengesahkan Undang-Undang Pencegahan dan Penanganan Krisis Sistem Keuangan atau PPKSK. Undang-undang ini memberikan mandat baru bagi LPS, terutama dalam penanganan krisis keuangan. Sidang Paripurna Dewan Perwakilan Rakyat pun menyetujui pengesahan Undang-Undang PPKSK secara aklamasi pada 17 Maret 2016 dan diundangkan pada 15 April 2016. Undang-Undang PPKSK juga memberikan kesempatan kepada LPS untuk masuk lebih awal ke dalam bank sistemik yang mengalami permasalahan solvabilitas. Langkah ini tentunya untuk menentukan resolusi penyihatan yang tepat.
Dengan sekarang disahkannya Undang-Undang PPKSK, peranan dan tantangan LPS menjadi semakin besar. Kalau pada saat yang lalu adalah betul-betul menjaga dan memberikan jaminan bagi simpanan masyarakat di perbankan, peranan LPS sekarang meningkat menjadi pelaksana program restrukturisasi perbankan.
LPS juga memperoleh metode baru dalam penanganan bank sistemik seperti halnya pengalihan sebagian atau seluruh aset dan kewajiban kepada bank lain atau disebut juga purchase and assumption. Kemudian, LPS dapat melakukan metode penggunaan bank perantara untuk menerima pengalihan sebagian atau seluruh aset dan kewajiban dari bank sistemik tersebut, serta penyertaan modal sementara yang telah diatur dalam Undang-Undang LPS. Undang-Undang PPKSK juga memberikan mandat kepada LPS untuk melaksanakan program restrukturisasi perbankan atau PRP dalam kondisi tertentu, seperti krisis sistem keuangan dan permasalahan sektor perbankan yang membahayakan perekonomian nasional.
Di dalam proses yang paling terakhir khususnya, itu perlu ada penguatan. Disinilah peran LPS, tugas dan wewenang LPS tidak lagi hanya sekedar menjamin simpanan masyarakat, tetapi juga memperkuat proses penanganan bank. Dan di dalam Undang-Undang PPKSK ini, tugas dan kewenangan LPS itu menjadi lebih luas. Dari sebelumnya hanya Paybox Plus menjadi juga sebagai otoritas di bidang resolusi bank.
Perkembangan sektor perbankan yang dinamis seiring dengan adanya kebutuhan internal membuat LPS melaksanakan program transformasi dengan latar belakang Undang-Undang PPKSK. Program ini diawali dengan perubahan visi dan misi LPS. Visi LPS adalah menjadi lembaga yang terdepan, terpercaya, dan diakui di tingkat nasional dan internasional dalam menjamin simpanan nasabah dan melaksanakan resolusi bank untuk mendorong dan memelihara stabilitas sistem keuangan. Sedangkan misi LPS adalah berkomitmen untuk menyelenggarakan penjamin simpanan yang efektif dalam rangka melindungi nasabah, melaksanakan resolusi bank yang efektif dan efisien, melaksanakan penanganan krisis melalui restrukturisasi bank yang efektif dan efisien, dan berperan aktif dalam mendorong dan memelihara stabilitas sistem keuangan nasional. Berdasarkan data per Agustus 2021, jumlah rekening simpanan yang dijamin LPS telah mencapai di atas target, yaitu 99,92% atau lebih dari 360 juta rekening. Angka ini melebihi target yang ditetapkan Undang-Undang LPS sebesar 90%.
Jadi sekarang saya tidak takut lagi buat nabung di bank yang lain dikarenakan ada penjamin yang namanya LPS.
Saya merasa senang. Ternyata benar-benar LPS menjaminnya 100%.
Alhamdulillah itu udah ada info dari bank, di bank itu sudah ditangani oleh LPS. Saya senang lah. Terima kasih kepada LPS.
LPS yang menjamin uang kita. Terima kasih LPS.
LPS bersama anggota KSSK yakni Kementerian Keuangan, Bank Indonesia, dan OJK melakukan koordinasi dan komunikasi secara intensif demi terciptanya sinergi kebijakan untuk menjaga stabilitas keuangan dalam rangka mendorong pemulihan ekonomi nasional.
Di usia 16 tahun ini, LPS berkomitmen untuk terus berinovasi dan memperbaiki diri karena kami sadar amanah yang diberikan dan tantangan yang kami hadapi semakin berat. Kami berkomitmen untuk menjaga kepercayaan nasabah perbankan melalui program penjaminan simpanan dan resolusi bank. Pada kesempatan ini, izinkan saya mengucapkan terima kasih kepada seluruh masyarakat Indonesia atas dukungannya kepada LPS. Kami juga mengapresiasi pemerintah, DPR RI, regulator, dan industri perbankan yang telah bekerja keras bahu-membahu dalam menjaga stabilitas sistem keuangan dan mendorong perekonomian nasional.